W5FC. Dallas Races Net, first and third Sunday, 8 p.m., W5FC.
Mr. Chairman, I need to make myself very clear. If we uplink now, Skynet will be in control of your military.
But you'll be in control of Skynet, right?
That is correct, sir.
Skynet.
We'll be starting Skynet here in a couple of minutes. This is KE5ICX.
Does anyone need to use the repeater before we begin the 9 p.m. Skynet? This is KF5PDS. My name is Billye, and I'll be your net control for this session of the DARC Skynet. Skynet is a weekly net called every Saturday night at 9 p.m. concerning the subject of astronomy. Our purpose is to help amateurs become more familiar with the nighttime and daytime sky, astronomy, and space in general. This net is open to all amateurs interested in this topic, and we encourage your participation, comments, and suggestions for this net. Stations with priority or emergency traffic may enter the net at any time by using the pro sign break and your call sign. Is there any emergency or priority traffic? This is a directed net. Please do not transmit without direction from net control. That would be me. And stations are reminded to ID at the end of your transmissions. This weekly net operates on 146.880 MHz with a DL tone of 110.9. Check-ins via Echolink are also possible using the W5FC-R station ID or Echolink node 37247. Tonight's topics, astronomy charts, pictures, and live audio-video links are available online. Go to www.w5fc.org right now for the complete list, and remember to tell others about this popular net. You can now check into the net electronically by going to the club website, w5fc.org, look for tonight's Skynet announcement, and click on the hot link to check in. We'll acknowledge you on the air, and don't worry, if you want to check in via voice, we'll continue to do that too, over air and Echolink. All amateur radio operators are welcome. You need not be a member of any amateur radio club to participate. The net is 90 minutes long and is structured in several parts. General announcements, Texas Astronomical Society of Dallas events, where and when you can look through a telescope, National Space Society events, discussion topic of the evening, Was Up, space exploration and space history, Constellation of the week, space launches of the week, visible satellite passages over the next couple of days, astronomical Q&A, and our 73 round. All amateurs licensed to transmit on this frequency are invited to check in. We currently have the following people checked in via w5fc.org. We have KE5ICX, Tom in Corpus Christi on the All-Star link, KF5JHA, Chaz, and Bob the Cat. And he says, respect your cat day domain. Multiple modes. AA5AH, Robert in Richardson, over-air radio. N5BB, Bill in Irving, over-air radio. N5 Oscar Foxtrot, Clay in Mesquite, online YouTube. KI5PGM, Travis in McKinney, combo mode, OTA, and Echolink. And N5LIG, Dale, Little Elm, over-air radio. Now let's start with voice check-ins, starting with short time. So if you would like to check in, but you're going to be short time to this evening's net, please come now with your call sign, name, and where you're transmitting from this evening.
This is Whiskey 5, Bacon, Lettuce, Tomato, W5, PLT, Bill, Garland. Kilo 5. Juliet Delta Whiskey, John and Carrollton. Mobile.
Right, the net recognizes W5BLT, Bill and Garland, and K5JDW, John and Carrollton Mobile. Do we have any other short time check-ins? If so, please come now with your call sign, name, and where you're transmitting from. Someone was trying to check in there but didn't catch anything. If you want to try checking in again, please come now with your call sign, name, where you're transmitting from. Not hearing anything, so we'll go ahead and move over to general check-ins. So the same request for general check-ins. If you will come with your call sign, name, and where you're transmitting from this evening. Okay, not hearing any. I would move over to Echolink, but I just checked Echolink, and everybody that's on Echolink is already checked in. So I'll go to an open round. If anyone would like to check in, you can do so now, any mode, with your call sign, name, where you're transmitting from this evening. Any mode, general check-in.
This is Whiskey Bravo 4 Mike Foxtrot India WB4MFI Ted Dallas Low Power.
November Victor 5 Foxtrot, Virginia in Fort Worth.
This is Kilo Golf 5 Whiskey Victor Lima, James in North Carrollton. Alpha India 5 Oscar Lima, Dan, Southwest Fort Worth. Alpha Charlie 5 Victor Charlie, Cecil in Mesquite.
This is Kilo Golf 5 Alpha Papa Lima Patrick and Richardson.
Okay, that was a pretty healthy check-in round, so let me go ahead and acknowledge those stations that have checked in. WB4 MFI, Ted Dallas Low Power, NV5F Virginia in Fort Worth, KG5 Whiskey Victor Lima James in North Carrollton, AI5 Oscar Lima Dan Southwest Fort Worth, AC5VC Cecil in Mesquite, and KG5 APL Patrick in Richardson. Do we have any other check-ins? This is open round check-ins, so any mode, if you would like to check into this evening's net, please come now with your call sign, name, and where you're transmitting from.
This is Kilo 6 Delta Julia Bravo, operator named Dave, transmitting from Farmington, just south of Minneapolis. Over.
Copy that. K6 Delta Juliet Bravo, Dave in Arlington, near Minneapolis. Welcome to this evening's net. Are there any other check-ins? If so, please come now with your call sign, name, and where you're transmitting from.
This is Kilo Golf 5 Uniform Foxtrot Romeo, Jacob and Farmers Branch.
This is Whiskey 5 Golf Uniform Sierra Gus, far, far northeast Dallas.
All right, so the net recognizes Kilo Golf 5 Uniform Foxtrot Romeo, Jacob and Farmers Branch, and W5GUS Gus in far, far northeast Dallas. All right, do we have any other check-ins for this evening's net? If so, please come now with your call sign, name, and where you're transmitting from. Okay, not hearing any, so we'll go ahead and get started with our net. Welcome to all who have checked in on Skynet. All right, so let's get started with general announcements. Do we have any general announcements for this evening's net? These can be ham, astronomical, space, or of general interest to licensed hams. If you have an announcement for this evening's net, please come now with your call sign. Okay, not hearing any, so I'll go ahead with some announcements. The AMSAT Radio Amateur Satellite Group has 3 nets available to Dallas residents. On Tuesday evenings at 8 p.m. Central Time, you can check into the National AMSAT Net. Learn all about amateur satellites and how you can use them in amateur radio. The National AMSAT Net will bring the most up-to-date information on amateur satellites currently in use or new ones coming online. You will need Echolink installed and you registered. You can find the net under Groups and AMSAT. Also, a live audio link is available on their website at www.amsatnet.com. This net originates in Houston, Texas. 2 local nets are available in Dallas. Both of these nets encourage active check-ins. You can ask questions of the net control as well as others checked in. AMSAT Net East, Dallas-Fort Worth, Texas, is every Tuesday at 8 p.m. on this repeater, 146.880 megahertz, with a PL tone of 110.9. Tuesdays, Tom N5HYP is the net control. All are welcome to check in. The first Tuesday of the month is the DARC club night, so there's no AMSAT East on that night. The Dallas AMSAT Net West is every Wednesday at 9 p.m. on the Arlington repeater, 147.140 megahertz, with a PL tone of 110.9 and a positive offset. The DARC hosts a number of nets on Monday evenings at 7 p.m. Check the W5FC.org website. This coming Monday, I believe, will be a 5th Monday, which is a surprise net. This week is the surprise net. If we told you what it was, it wouldn't be a surprise. On-air participation is encouraged. Sometimes we even offer a real prize. Otherwise, show your fellow hams your technical, social, and pop culture knowledge and creativity. Saturdays are the Night of Nets, where we keep the airwaves buzzing until midnight. Here's the lineup. TechNet from 7 to 8 p.m. Q&A on all things ham radio related. There's also a swap meet, Rookies Corner, news and information, and ham radio events and contests, alternating net controls each week. And at 9 p.m., Skynet from 9 to 10:30 p.m. Astronomy, space, and space exploration are the topics. Also news and information, satellite passages, and the constellation of the week. Join this popular net about ham's second most favorite hobby, astronomy, alternating net controls. And following Skynet is the Afterglow Movie net from 10:30 to midnight. Will it be a hit or the dreaded miss? Thumbs up or thumbs down? You make the call. We watch an assigned science fiction movie and then review it for about 90 minutes. We discuss plot, characterization, special effects, music, and answer the question, will I dare watch this movie ever again? Everyone is welcome to check in, even if you haven't seen the movie, which might actually be a plus. The first and third Sundays are the Dallas Amateur Radio Club meeting on the air. What's going on in your ham world? Tell us. Also learn about the club that maintains this popular repeater, the Dallas Amateur Radio Club. Club news and information, events, activities, including club meetings, lecture and lab, public service events, contests, and just general discussion. Everyone can check into this net. And daily is the ARRL Net National Traffic System Training Net every night at 6:30 p.m. Central Time. Learn how message traffic is handled on this formal training net. Newbies are welcome to check in as this is a training net. The NTS also conducts an evening net on the Irving Whiskey Alpha 5 Charlie Kilo Foxtrot repeater 146.72 megahertz at 9:30 p.m. All are welcome to check in on any or all of these nets. And at this moment, we're going to talk about what's coming up on tonight's Afterglow movie at 10:30. So at this time, I'm going to turn the net over to Tom, KE5ICX. The net is yours to give us the Afterglow info from KF5PDS.
Well, thank you, Billy. This is KE5ICX down in Corpus Christi. Tonight's Afterglow movie is as follows. Carl Cabot, not to be confused with Dick Cabot, who isn't in this movie, was a physics professor. It was spring break, and he had nowhere to go. He dropped by the local resale store looking for a VHS machine he could purchase and watch old 1980s movies on. But then he realized he's already in the 1980s, and is only available in his chosen format. He sighed and looked around. Suddenly he came across a magical ring on sale. It said, "Magical ring on sale now," followed by a reassuring statement, "Works, needs batteries." And at the price of $3.98, it seemed like a good deal. But of course, he didn't know what powers the ring would possess. But he took a chance and bought it. The lady at the checkout tried to warn him, saying, "You know, the last guy brought it back and asked for his money back. It's a time travel ring," and he said the thing would only transport him to lands where the badly behaved, dubbed people shout a lot and wear old dusty leather, and then shout about that too. He put the double A's in the ring. Suddenly he was transported to a land of yelling people wearing dusty leather. Well, you get what you pay for, he thought. So join us for Gore from 1987, vaguely based on the Gore book series. But don't let that stop you. This is probably even worse than the books. That's tonight at 10:30 p.m. Back to you, Billy, KE5ICX.
Great. Thank you very much, Tom. And you can keep up with all DARC events, nets, and activities by going to the club website, W5FC.org. So looking over at our club website check-in, everybody's checked in. And if you're out there and you have not checked in, you can go to W5FC.org, go to the website, click on the hot link, check into the net. Or if you would rather, you can just check in via voice. I'll now take additional voice check-ins. So if you have not checked in yet to this evening's net and you'd like to do so, please come now with your call sign, name, and where you're transmitting from.
Alpha Bravo 5, Delta Mike, Dustin in Dallas.
Alpha Bravo 5, Delta Mike, Dustin in Dallas. Welcome to Skynet. Is there anyone else out there that would like to check into this evening's net? Okay, not hearing anyone, so we'll move on with our next segment, Texas Astronomical Society of Dallas events, where and when you can look through a telescope. At this time, I'll turn the net over to Chaz, KF5JHA, and Bob the Cat. He says, today is Respect Your Cat Day. I think that's every day, Chaz, especially here with my feline overlord, Pumpkin. He is nowhere to be found at the moment, but I know he's around listening to Skynet. So at this time, I will turn the net over to you, KF5JHA. The net is yours from KF5PDS.
Thank you, Billy. Good evening, everyone. Yep, I did not know that there was a Respect Your Cat Day until someone sent that to me today. And I looked it up and I said, sure enough, there is. And since I'm a staff member of Bob the Cat, I think you're right. Every day is Respecter Cat Day. Okay. So on March the 27th, that was last night, was the last Texas Astronomical Society of Dallas Club meeting. The meeting was held at 7:30 p.m. in person at the University of Texas at Dallas, and there was also a Zoom component for some members. The featured speaker was Dr. Joe Eisen. His topic was solar system astrophotography. Now, Dr. Joe Eisen, if that name sounds familiar, he's a retired professor at University of Texas at Dallas, and he's a professor emeritus. But his team was responsible for building the Atlas detector on the CERN collider that discovered the Higgs boson. So we had a famous person giving a presentation last night. It was great. It was a fantastic one. Our next Texas Astronomical Society of Dallas Club meeting is going to be on April the 24th. Again, that'll be at 7:30 p.m. at the University of Texas at Dallas. And that's going to be presented by Professor John Steele. His topic's going to be early history of astronomy. It should be very interesting. Now, let's see now. Past host Saturday night public observing sessions in this area. Skynet was picked to be on Saturday night, so there could be an opportunity for live reports from the Texas Astronomical Society of Dallas public observing sessions. Currently on the fourth Saturday of the month, that would be tonight, there are no scheduled stargazing, but with the cloud cover, even if there were, it would have been canceled probably anyway. You can check the TASS website at texasastro.org for up-to-date information and details about meetings and public observing sessions. This is KF5JHA and Bob the Cat. Returning it back to our net control, KF5PDS.
Great. Thank you very much, Chaz and Bob. This is KF5PDS, Billye, your net control for this session of the DARC Skynet. All right, next up is National Space Society events and activities. So at this time, I will turn the net over to Bill. N5BB, the net is yours from KF5PDS.
Thank you very much, Billye. This is N5BB, Bill. I happen to be the National Space Society North Texas Chapter Vice President and Membership Director. You can reach me at space@byram.net. My section this evening is a little bit long because there's a big event coming up next week. We might be going back to the moon. Cross your fingers. The National Space Society is a nonprofit group based in the U.S. which is interested in the exploration and development of space and the creation of a spacefaring civilization. Our local National Space Society chapter website is ntx.nss.org. Our group also has an active Facebook page. Just type National Space Society of North Texas into the search box. The North Texas chapter of the National Space Society meets at 3:30 p.m. on the second Sunday afternoon of each month at Spring Creek Barbecue on Highway 183 in Irving. Our next chapter meeting will be on Sunday, April the 12th. On the last Friday evening of each month, from 6 to 8 p.m., the National Space Society North Texas chapter sponsors a social event called Space Rendezvous at Cheddar's Restaurant, 700 West Highway 635 in Irving. You do not need to be a member of any organization to attend. The last Space Rendezvous was held last night, Friday, March the 27th. We had 7 people at this event. The next major space event coming up will be the NASA Artemis II launch. The SLS rocket is on the launch pad, and the 4 astronauts are in quarantine awaiting the launch. The first 2-hour launch window is coming up this coming Wednesday, April the 1st, starting at 5:24 p.m. Central Time. So again, that's a 2-hour launch window starting this next Wednesday, April the 1st, at 5:24 p.m. Central Time. If the launch is delayed, there's additional launch windows every following evening, ending on Monday, April the 6th. Each of these later launch windows is a little bit later in the evening. So the April the 6th, it's after 10 p.m. local time. If for some reason they need to delay beyond there, the next launch window, I believe, opens up on April the 30th. Got to wait for the moon to be in the right position. The astronauts for NASA's Artemis II mission are Reed Wiseman, the commander, Victor Glover, the pilot, Christina Koch, the mission specialist, and Jeremy Hansen, a mission specialist from the Canadian Space Agency. This mission marks the first crewed flight of the Artemis program, aiming to test the Orion spacecraft going around the moon. The Orion capsule will loop around the moon but not land there. During this mission, the astronauts will be further from Earth than any humans have ever been. Artemis 3 is now planned. By the way, these things were changed within the last month. The following details are the latest after some big changes. Artemis 3 is planned to be a docking test mission in 2027. That's next year. An Orion capsule will dock with a human landing system, that's HLS, moon lander, in lunar orbit. In Earth orbit. SpaceX is providing their Starship HLS, and Blue Origin is providing their Blue Moon HLS. So two different human landing systems. If they're both available, we don't know. Maybe they'll try docking with both. Those details have not been released yet, but we'll find out as we get closer to the test next year. So, Artemis 3 will be in Earth orbit just to check that critical docking maneuver. Artemis 4 is planned for early 2028. It should be the first human landing on the moon in about 50 years. So, a SLS rocket will launch the Orion capsule to the moon. Another rocket will launch one of those human systems to the moon. They will dock somewhere along the way, and then the human landing system will take the astronauts to and from the moon, and then the Orion capsule will bring them back to the Earth. So that's Artemis 4, early 2028. Artemis 5 is planned for late 2028 as a follow-up human moon landing mission. So they're hoping for 2 lunar missions in 2028. They're hoping to maybe have 1 moon mission every 6 months for a while, which would be amazing. And there's now a plan to set up a lunar base. Some of the pieces of the Lunar Gateway space previously, the Lunar Gateway space station are now going to be repurposed for use on the moon base. And other parts are going to be repurposed for another mission. All these missions on the moon will land near the south pole of the moon. We're looking for water. The big National Space Society event each year is the International Space Development Conference. That's ISDC. ISDC 2026 will be held in Tysons Corner, Virginia, which is not far from Washington, D.C. The dates are June the 4th through the 7th. That's 2026. Early bird discounted registration ends on April 15th. Find out more at isdc.nss.org. If you have any questions about the National Space Society, please contact Bill N5BB at my QRZ listed email address or at space@byram.net. That's all I've got. Thank you, Billy. N5BB back connects.
Great. Thank you very much, Bill. This is KF5PDS, Billye, your net control for this session of the DARC Skynet. All right, next up is discussion topic of the evening. For tonight's topic, I've chosen NASA's Exobiology program. You can find this information on their website at science.nasa.gov. I just Googled NASA Exobiology and went to their webpage. And there's also an astrobiology science convention. There's a link to that on that page. That's also at science.nasa.gov, and I'll give some details about the conference here in just a little bit. So the goal of NASA's Exobiology program, formerly Exobiology and Evolutionary Biology, is to understand the origin, evolution, distribution, and future of life in the universe. Research is centered on the origin and early evolution of life, the potential of life to adapt to different environments, and the implication for life elsewhere. This research is conducted in the context of NASA's ongoing exploration of our stellar neighborhood and the identification of biosignatures for in situ and remote sensing applications. The current program officer for exobiology is Allison Alcott, and you can click there for a full list of program officers. The NASA Solicitation and Proposal Integrated Review and Evaluation System, INSPIRES, contains information on all NASA-funded research opportunities. You can create an INSPIRES account to receive updates and to respond to NASA research announcements. The areas of research are planetary conditions for life. Research in this area seeks to delineate the galactic and planetary conditions conducive to the origin of life. Topics of interest include the formation and stability of habitable planets, the formation of complex organic molecules in space and their delivery to planetary surfaces, models of early environments in which organic chemical synthesis could occur, the forms in which prebiotic organic matter has been preserved in planetary materials, and the range of planetary environments amenable to life. Another research area is prebiotic evolution. Research in the area of prebiotic evolution seeks to understand the pathways and processes leading from the origin of planetary bodies to the origin of life. The strategy is to investigate the planetary and molecular processes that set the physical and chemical conditions within which living systems may have arisen. A major objective is determining what chemical systems could have served as precursors of metabolic and replicating systems on Earth and elsewhere, including alternatives to the current DNA, RNA, protein basis for life. And I was remiss in announcing that if you go over to the YouTube channel, you can go to YouTube and to DARC Skynet and find the channel and see our live broadcast or transmission that Tom is doing over on YouTube. He's doing a great slideshow over there. And you can also go to W5FC.org and find the YouTube link there. So please do go over and check out Tom's awesome slide presentation that goes with my presentation here. The next research area is early evolution of life and the biosphere. The goal of research into the early evolution of life is to determine the nature of the most primitive organisms and the environment in which they evolved. The opportunity is taken to investigate two natural repositories of evolutionary history available on Earth, the molecular record in living organisms and the geological record. These paired records are used to determine when and in what setting life first appeared and the characteristics of the first successful living organisms. To understand the phylogeny and physiology of microorganisms, including extremophiles, whose characteristics may reflect the nature of primitive environments. To determine the original nature of biological energy transduction, membrane function, and informal processing, including the construction of artificial chemical systems to test hypotheses regarding the original nature of key biological processes. To investigate the development of key biological processes and their environmental impact, to examine the response of Earth's biosphere to extraterrestrial events, to investigate the evolution of genes, pathways, and microbial species subject to long-term environmental change relevant to the origin of life on Earth and the search for life elsewhere, and to study the coevolution of microbial communities and the interactions within such communities that drive major geochemical cycles, including the processes through which new species are added to extant communities. Another area is evolution of advanced life. Research associated with the study of the evolution of advanced life seeks to determine the biological and environmental factors leading to the development of multicellularity on Earth and the potential distribution of complex life in the universe. This research includes the studies of the origin and early evolution of those biological factors that are essential to multicellular life, such as developmental programs, intercellular signaling, programmed cell death, the cytoskeleton, cellular adhesion control, and differentiation in the context of the origin of advanced life. This research area also includes an evaluation of environmental factors such as the influence of extraterrestrial, for example, bolide impacts, orbital and solar variations, gamma ray bursts, etc., and planetary processes, for example, snowball Earth events, rapid climate change, etc., on the appearance and evolution of multicellular life. Of particular interest are mass extinction events. And the final research area that I'll cover tonight, exobiology for solar system exploration. Research in this area focuses on relating what is known about life on Earth to conditions prevailing on other planetary bodies. This research includes assessments of the survivability of various types of Earth microorganisms and the formation and retention of biosignatures under non-Earth conditions, for example, Mars or Europa. Also included under this research area are efforts to assess the potential habitability of planetary environments other than those found on the Earth. And just as a final mention, there is an astrobiology science convention. You can find a link to that on the science.nasa.gov astrobiology page that I was just reading from. It's just known as AbSciCon. It's going to be May 17th through the 22nd of this year, 2026, in Madison, Wisconsin. So let me just give you a quick little bit of info about this conference. The Astrobiology Science Conference 2006, also known as AbSciCon 26, brings the astrobiology community together every 2 years to share research, collaborate, and plan for the future. AbSciCon 26 is a community-organized conference that provides a forum for reporting on new discoveries, sharing data and insights, advancing collaborative efforts, and initiating new ones, planning new projects, and educating the next generation of astrobiologists. AbSciCon 26, as I said, will be held in Madison, Wisconsin on May 17th through the 22nd of 2026. They say join us in Madison for a robust gathering of scientists and exchange of knowledge. And you can visit the AbSciCon 26 website for the latest updates and information. So there's my discussion topic for the evening. Does anyone have any questions or comments for tonight's presentation? If so, please come now with your call sign. Okay, not hearing anything, so checking the club check-in. I don't see anybody new checked in. If there's anyone out there that would like to check into this evening's net that has not had a chance to do so, please come now with your call sign, name, and where you're transmitting from this evening. Okay, not hearing anything, so we'll move on to our next topic, which is Was Up. So at this time, I will return the net to Chaz, KF5JHA. The net is yours from KF5PDS.
Thank you, Billy. Good evening once again, everyone. Just to let you know, Bob the Cat is sitting right beside the computer, so I could have issues. All right, this segment of Skynet is Was Up because it's all about what's gone on astronomically over the last couple of weeks and what will take place over the next couple of weeks and beyond. That was slide number 2. And I'm talking about slides. Again, Billy talked about the video version of Skynet. If you want to get the video version, go to W5FC.org, click on the link to the YouTube link to see the live video version of this. Slide master, slide number 3. We've talked about the predicted nova of the star T Corona Borealis, which may erupt at any time. It is currently at a brightness of a 10th magnitude, I just checked a few minutes ago, which is much too faint to be seen with just your 2 eyes. T Corona Borealis was supposed to go nova more than a year and a half ago. One recent prediction was for T Corona Borealis to go nova on November the 10th, 2025. Well, that didn't happen. So another prediction is on June the 25th, plus or minus a few days of this year. Now, when it does go nova, T Corona Borealis could become as bright as the North Star, which is 2nd magnitude. And I can see the North Star with just my 2 eyes for my very light-polluted location here in Mesquite. Slide master, slide number 4. This image of the sun I took from spaceweather.com on March the 26th, just a couple of days ago. The large sunspot complexes on the sun are so large at times that all you have to use are their solar eclipse glasses to see them. The sun is just past its 11-year solar maximum. Not quite sure when that happened. We'll have to do some calculations to determine that. We're not quite sure when it had occurred, but we'll figure it out. I presented the information about the solar cycle just about 3 months ago on Skynet. Slide master, slide number 5. On the first quarter moon phase was on March the 25th, so the current phase of the moon is a waxing gibbous. Full moon is on April the 1st. Yes, no kidding. April the 1st is full moon. On April the 7th, the moon is at apogee, which is a point in the moon's orbit that is furthest from the Earth at a distance of 404,970 kilometers. Third quarter phase of the moon is on April the 9th. New moon is on April 17th. And on April the 19th, the moon is at perigee, which is a point in the moon's orbit that is closest to the Earth at a distance of 361,639 kilometers. Slide master, slide number 6. All right, we go through a lightning round of different things over the next couple of weeks. Here we go. On March the 29th, there's a conjunction of the moon and the bright star Regulus. We can see that in the eastern evening sky. Slide master, slide number 7. On April the 1st, there's a conjunction in the southeastern morning of the planet Mercury and the asteroid Vesta. I've been able to see Vesta with just a pair of binoculars from inside the Metroplex, so you should be able to use binoculars to see it. Slide master, slide number 8. On April the 2nd, there's a conjunction of the moon and the bright star Spica. That's found in the southeastern evening sky. Slide master, slide number 9. On April the 4th, Venus and the asteroid Ceres are in conjunction in the western evening sky. Once again, you'll need a pair of binoculars to see Ceres. And on slide master, slide number 10, April the 6th, in the southeastern morning sky is the conjunction of the moon and the bright star Antares. And this is KF5JHA, and this is Skynet. Slide master, slide number 11. Now, do any of you out there in Radio Land have a question, or maybe you need a fill on any of the information I've given you, or maybe you just have a general astronomy question? My degree's in astrophysics, so I might be able to answer it, or someone else on the net might be able to answer it. So come now with your call sign if you have a question or need a fill. Okay, not hearing anything. Slide master, slide number 12. So as the moon waned about 10 days ago, so do these words of this segment of Skynet. Stay safe, keep well, pray for our world. It's the only one where humans live right now. Until next time, actually I'll be doing another Skynet segment in just a few minutes. Keep looking up so you know what's up. And this is KF5JJ, and this is Skynet, transmitting on the W5FC repeater at 146.88 megahertz. Skynet is also available on Echolink and YouTube. Now back to our net control. Billye, it's yours.
Great, thank you very much, Chaz. This is KF5TDS Billye, your net control for this session of the DARC Skynet. All right, next up is space exploration and space history. So at this time, I will turn the net over to Gus, W5GUS. The net is yours from KF5TDS.
Okay, thank you, Billye. W5GUS here with space news. Let's see, we'll start. You heard a lot about Artemis from Bill earlier. But I guess the news is that the Space Launch System rocket and Orion spacecraft for the Artemis II mission successfully returned to the Launch Complex 39B at Kennedy Space Center. It took 11 and a half hours to roll it out from the vehicle assembly building out to the pad. It represents one of the final major ground milestones before the mission's anticipated liftoff. This mission will be the first crewed flight of the Artemis program, carrying 4 astronauts on a high visibility trajectory around the moon. Engineers are now focused on completing the final integrated tests and fueling rehearsals to ensure the massive rocket is ready for its April launch window Bill mentioned. The success of this rollout solidifies the timeline for humanity's return to the lunar vicinity for the first time in over 50 years. All right, and on March 22nd, SpaceX continued its aggressive launch cadence by successfully deploying another batch of 29 Starlink satellites. The mission, designated Group 1062, utilized a flight-proven Falcon 9 booster that executed a precise vertical landing on a drone ship shortly after liftoff. This launch brings the total number of Starlink satellites in orbit closer to the company's goal of providing seamless high-speed internet to every corner of the globe. The deployment highlights SpaceX's unique ability to maintain a high-frequency launch schedule, which is critical for the rapid expansion of their broadband network. As the constellation grows, the company is also focusing on new inter-satellite laser links to further reduce latency for users in remote maritime and aviation sectors. Okay, March 24th, NASA officially announced its new Ignition initiatives, which is, according to this, a bold set of agency-wide programs designed to fast-track the national space policy goals. A cornerstone of this announcement was an ambitious $20 billion plan dedicated to establishing a permanent, sustainable human presence on the moon. The initiative also introduces new pathways for private industry talent to integrate directly with NASA operations, fostering a more collaborative aerospace ecosystem. By streamlining procurement and development, NASA hopes to reduce the costs and risks associated with long-term deep space habitation. These strategic moves are intended to secure American leadership in space while preparing for the eventual human exploration of Mars. And last Tuesday, March 24th, NASA's experimental X-59 aircraft, X-59, the centerpiece of the Quest mission, successfully completed its second development test flight. The aircraft is uniquely shaped to prevent shock waves from merging effectively and turning a loud sonic boom into a quiet sonic thump. During this flight, pilots tested the aircraft's handling qualities and the performance of its advanced external vision system that replaces a traditional front-facing cockpit window. Data gathered from these tests will eventually be used to help regulators rewrite rules that currently ban commercial supersonic flight over land. That's because of the sonic booms. By proving that supersonic travel can be quiet, NASA aims to open up a new era of faster-than-sound travel for passengers worldwide. Okay, March 25th, solar physicists captured a massive coronal mass ejection erupting from the sun's northeast horizon on March 25th. I guess they captured an image. The event was triggered by C7.3 class solar flare, sending a billion-ton cloud of magnetized plasma hurtling to the inner solar system. While the primary blast was directed away from Earth, a secondary glancing blow from a previous eruption was predicted to reach our planet shortly after. Space weather forecasters at NOAA issued alerts for potential G1 class minor geomagnetic storm, which can cause subtle fluctuations in power grids. Additionally, the eruption provided a unique opportunity for orbiting solar observatories to gather high-resolution data on the sun's complex magnetic field dynamics. And it's been a busy week for new developments. Even the Russians are enjoying them. The first flight of the Soyuz 5 rocket was successfully conducted from Kazakhstan on March 27th, marking a significant modernization of Russia's orbital launch capabilities. This medium-lift vehicle, powered by the advanced engine, successfully placed its test payload into a stable orbit before completing all primary mission objectives. The launch is a critical milestone for Roscosmos as it seeks to replace the aging Zenit and older Soyuz variants with a more cost-effective and flexible platform. Success on this maiden flight paves the way for future human spaceflight missions and heavy cargo launches using the modernized architecture. Engineers will spend the coming weeks analyzing data from the flight to prepare for the rocket's next operational deployment. Okay, and that's it for the space news. Let's go to some pretty interesting space-related birthdays, especially this first one. Okay, born March 22nd, 1931, a name you might remember, William Shatner. March 22nd, 1931. He was the iconic actor. He is the iconic actor who became the oldest person in space at age 90 during a suborbital flight. He is best known for portraying Captain James T. Kirk in the Star Trek franchise. So, yeah, boy, he's 95, still kicking. That's good. Good on you, Bill. Okay, March 24, 1951, Kenneth Reichler Jr. Was born. He's a ham also. Served as a pilot on 2 space shuttle missions, including the historic first joint U.S.-Russian mission. He logged over 327 hours in space during his NASA career. He was a ham. KC-5VZD was his call. All right, another name you might remember, James Lovell, born March 25th, 1928. Gemini 7, Gemini 12, Apollo 8, Apollo 13. No wonder we kind of know his name. Commanded the ill-fated Apollo 13 mission and successfully brought the crew home after an oxygen tank explosion. He was also one of the first humans to orbit the moon during the Apollo 8 mission. Okay, March 26, 1962, Yuri Gidzenko was born. He's a ham. Let's see, he was on Soyuz, Mir, Expedition 1, Soyuz, TM-34. Member of the very first crew to live aboard the International Space Station. As a flight engineer, he also spent significant time aboard Mir Space Station during his earlier career. That was old Yuri, yeah. Not the Yuri, but Yuri. Okay, next, March 28th, and this is the last birthday, Wubo Ockels, O-C-K-E-L-S, Ockels, March 28, 1946. He's a ham. He's a Dutch citizen who was the first Dutch citizen to fly in space, serving as a payload specialist on the Challenger. His mission focused on scientific experiments within the German-led Space Lab D1 module. All right, let's move into space history. March 23, 1965. This mission was the first crewed flight of NASA's Gemini program, featuring astronauts Gus Grissom, John Young. It marked the first time a crewed spacecraft performed orbital maneuvers to change its path. Grissom became the first person to fly in space twice during this mission. The crew famously smuggled a corned beef sandwich into the craft, which became a point of contention with NASA management. The mission successfully demonstrated the spacecraft systems over 3 orbits. And March 23rd, 2001, after 15 years of groundbreaking service, the Russian Mir space station was intentionally deorbited into the South Pacific. It served as a vital laboratory for long-duration human spaceflight and international cooperation. It hosted 125 cosmonauts and astronauts from 12 different nations during its operational life. The station's re-entry was a controlled maneuver to ensure debris fell safely away from populated areas. Its legacy continues through the design and operation of the ISS, the International Space Station. Okay, March 24th, 1965, same year. This was the final mission of the Ranger program, designed to capture high-resolution images of the lunar surface. The Ranger probe successfully impacted the Alphonsus crater while transmitting over 5,800 clear images. These photos were broadcast live on national television, giving the public a real-time view of the moon's approach. I should say the approach to the moon. The data provided crucial information for selecting future Apollo landing sites. It proved also that the lunar surface was firm enough to support a heavy spacecraft. Okay, March 27, 1972, launched by the Soviet Union, the Venera 8 probe was designed to survive the extreme atmospheric conditions of Venus. It became the first spacecraft to successfully land on the night side of the planet and transmit data. The lander operated for 50 minutes, 50 minutes, on the surface before being overwhelmed by the heat and pressure of Venus. It confirmed that the Venusian surface was relatively low light level even during the day. This mission provided the first direct measurement of the composition of the Venusian atmosphere. Okay, and the last item here for this week is Polyakov's record return on March 22nd, 1995. Who is Polyakov? Well, that's cosmonaut Valery Polyakov. He returned to Earth after spending a record-breaking 437 days aboard the Mir space station. His mission was designed to study the long-term effects of microgravity on the human body in preparation for Mars missions. Polyakov's his record for the longest single stay in space remains unbeaten to this day. And upon landing, he famously insisted on walking to his chair instead of being carried as usual to prove humans could function after long flights. His work remains a cornerstone of space medicine and long-duration flight planning. Okay, and with that, we will hand it back to Billye, net control, and wait with the bated breath anticipation for Miss Carolyn's Constellation of the Week and some jokes from Chaz. So back to you, Billye, from W5GUS.
Great. Thank you so much, Gus. This is KF5PDS Billye, your net control for this session of the DARC Skynet. All right, we'll take a quick pause for check-ins. I'm not seeing anybody new checked in on the club website sheet, but if there's anyone out there that has joined us that has not had a chance to check in yet, please come now with your call sign, name, and where you're transmitting from.
Hello. This is Whiskey November 5, Romeo November Whiskey, transmitting mobile in Irving, Texas, and this is Papa Alpha Tango, Pat.
All right, copy that. We've got Whiskey November 5, Romeo November Whiskey, Pat in Irving. Welcome to Skynet. Is there anyone else out there that would like to check into this evening's net? If so, please come now with your call sign, name, where you're transmitting from. Not hearing any, so we will move on to our next segment, which is Miss Carolyn's Constellation of the Week. So at this time, I will return the net to Chaz, KF5JHA. The net is yours once again from KF5PDS.
you, Billy. Just an update for the Respect Your Cat Day. Bob the cat has left from beside the computer, so he might pounce on it at any time because I'm paying more attention on the computer than I am to him. So anyway, Slide Master, slide number 13. Miss Carolyn's Constellation of the Week is named in honor of Silent T, Carolyn, KC50ZT. Carolyn contributed to Skynet each week, almost from its beginning in 2012. Yep, we've been doing Skynet since 2012. Until May of 2019, Carolyn did that with a detailed look at one particular constellation each week. Since there are about 52 easily visible constellations seen in Texas throughout the year out of the 88 total number of constellations, so Ms. Carolyn covered the entire sky as seen over North Texas in a year. And in her honor, we've continued that tradition of a constellation per week and named the segment after her. Ms. Carolyn's Constellation of the Week this week is actually a twofer, two constellations, Lynx, the Wildcat, and Cancer the Crab. Now, Lynx is one of the more modern recent constellations, first appearing in 1690 on a star map. Before this, the stars in this region were sometimes depicted as a tiger, but it had been fallen out of disuse. For those who enjoy observing double stars, Lynx is known for its collection of double stars. Now, Gus talked about this, the jokes of the week. We've got two batches of them, one for each constellation. So Slide Master, slide number 14, the jokes related to Lynx. When I search Canadian cats in Google, I get what? It just gives me a bunch of links. Get it? Links? Did you hear about the bobcat who found his long-lost cousin? He followed Lynx and his family. Why are those big cats over there blue? They're just hyperlinks. Yes, you knew I'd had to do a bunch of those kind of jokes. Did you hear about the lady who bought a fur coat? She wanted to be the Miss in Lynx. Okay. And Lynx just ate 50 rabbits. What do you fill in the blank with that? I guess it was a bad hair day. Oh, that was pretty funny. And this is KF5JHA, and this is Skynet. Slide Master, slide number 15. To find Lynx, start with the constellation of Orion. Orion's high in the southwestern sky right now, and if you go north, you should arrive at the bright star Capella, which is just about overhead. Then go to the left or east, and you'll run into the faint stars of the constellation of Lynx. Slide Master, slide number 16. 12 Lynxes is a triple star system with an A and B component separated by only 1.5 times the diameter of our solar system, giving it a separation of 1.7 arcseconds as seen from the Earth. Component C is about 8.7 arcseconds from the A and B pair. Another star is 38 Lynxes. It's a nice double star with differing colors between the two members. Nice contrast to see them. Slide Master, slide number 17. NGC, which stands for New General Catalog 2419, is a very distant globular cluster commonly known as the Intergalactic Wanderer, because for many years it was believed to not be part of the Milky Way family of globular clusters. Nowadays, however, it's generally accepted to be in a long, highly eccentric elliptical orbit around the Milky Way. NGC 2419 was believed for many years to be the most distant globular cluster known, until further and much fainter globular clusters were finally found. The most recent estimates place NGC 2419 at about 300,000 light years from our solar system. Slide Master, slide number 18. The constellation of Cancer the Crab represents the crab that Juno sent to further harass and distract Hercules while he battled the monstrous Hydra. The crab nipped at Hercules' toes with its claws and soon crushed and killed by Hercules. Juno placed it in the sky to commemorate it. Oh, well. It's a crushed crab. Okay. Slide Master, slide number 19. The jokes related to Cancer the Crab. do crustaceans celebrate birthdays? Well, with crab cakes, of course. What do you call a crab that doesn't like to share? That would be shellfish. Why did the hermit crab refuse to go into its shell? Because it was claustrophobic. What do you call a female crab who is also single? Michelle. Okay. And the last one in the series. A crab walks into a bar and the bartender says, what? I can't serve you. You're already walking sideways. Slide master, slide number 20. To find cancer of the crab, you go south of Lynx, but you can also find it in between the constellations of Leo and Gemini. Kind of faint constellation. Slide master, slide number 21. Theta Centauri is also known as pigmene, which means the covering, referring to the crab's shell or exoskeleton. It's a triple star system from shifts in one orbit of star C. This D component was finally physically resolved by using an adaptive optics camera on a 3.6 meter Canadian French Hawaiian telescope in the year 2000. So, wow, it's got 4 components. Slide master, slide number 22. M44, Messier object number 44, is also known as the beehive cluster, which is it's also known as Persept, which is Latin for manger. The beehive nickname is relatively recent, although it comes from the same Persept. It turns out that the word Persept can also be interpreted as the manger or beehive. The manger interpretation is the older of the two and represents the manger in which the 2 donkeys were feeding. The beehive representation is also appropriate since the stars in the cluster represent a swarm of bees. From a dark sky site, M44 can be visible to the unaided eye as a fuzzy patch of light in the heart of Cancer. With his telescope in the year 1610, Galileo was the first to reveal M44's true nature and resolved it into stars, describing it as a mass more than 40 small stars. At times, the moon will pass in front of the M44, providing a night of many occultations of the beehive star cluster. Slide master, slide number 23. Messier object number 67 is another open star cluster, lying about 9 degrees south of M44. It's easily found with just west of Alpha Centauri. Sharp-eyed viewers can see it with unaided eyes from dark sky locations when conditions are just right. It provides an interesting comparison with M44 because it is much further away at 2,600 light years compared to M44's only 515 light years away. M67 is also an unusual in a different way. Its stellar population is unlike most galactic open clusters. Instead has stars with spectral colors and magnitudes more like those of a globular cluster. M67 is also so intensely studied that the accurate colors and magnitudes are known for over 500 stars in that open star cluster, down to the magnitude of 16th magnitude. Wow. In a telescope, M67 is a nice open cluster. Much has been written about the appearance of M67. To some, the stars in M67 form an interesting pattern, forming the shape of a bird or a dragon with an outstretched wings. And this is KF5JJ, and this is Skynet. Slide master, slide number 24. There are a few more Astronomical League observing program objects in the constellations of Lynx, the Wildcat, and Cancer, the Crab. I've just given you a sampling of a few of those objects. The Astronomical League has, at last count, 96 different observing programs, most of which have about 100 objects. Now, if you observe just 10 different objects in an observing program each month, then you can earn an observing certificate and a pin from the Astronomical League in about a year. Slide master, slide number 25, and that is Miss Carolyn's Constellations of the Week Lynx, the wildcat, and Cancer the crab. I want to thank my friends Dave Hutchison and Dennis Orwell for their research and words on deep sky objects that I use, borrow, and steal for every Skynet. I also at times use the website Constellation-guide.com for information. Now, next week, we'll take a look at another twofer, Leo the lion and Leo Minor the small lion. And this is KF5JJ Chaz saying good night, and 73 back to our net control, KF5PDS.
Great. Thank you very much, Chaz. This is KF5PDS Billye, your net control for this session of the DARC Skynet. All right, next up, I'll let Tom take both of his segments back to back. We've got space launches for the week and visible satellite passages over the next week. So, Tom, if you want to just do your segments back to back, that would be awesome. So the net is yours to KE5ICX from KF5PDS.
Well, thank you, Billye, and this is KE5ICX. So we have information about launches. This comes from spaceflightnow.com/launch schedule. March 29th, tomorrow, Atlas V on the Amazon Leo 5 mission. SLC-41 will be the launch site from Cape Canaveral. The United Launch Alliance Atlas V rocket will launch a batch of broadband internet satellites for Amazon LEO, or LEO's low Earth orbit constellation. This is the 6th of 9 Atlas V rockets purchased by Amazon to fly satellites. Then we have in March the determined Daughter of the Stars. This will launch from Launch Complex 1 of Mahia, New Zealand. The Electron rocket will launch 2 satellites on a dedicated mission for the European Space Agency. The first flight for a new European space satellite navigation system called Celeste Leo PNT, Low Earth Orbit Position, Navigation, and Timing. This will ultimately be an 11-satellite constellation designed to understand how the low Earth orbit satellite fleet can be meshed with other PNT assets in space, like Galileo, EGNOS, and GNSS. That's the Satellite Global Positioning System. That one's the Russian one. Constellations to improve resilience and optimize services. The first 2 satellites, IOD-1 and 2, will be deployed into a 510-kilometer circular orbit. March 30th, Falcon 9 Transporter 16 flight. This will be from SOC-4E at Vandenberg. Will launch dozens of satellites in the sun-synchronous Earth orbit on this small-sat rideshare program. Numerous customers are flying on board the rocket, including 57 customer payloads being manifested by a German company called Exobiology and 19 payloads from the Texas-based SEOPS Space. Then on April 1st, we have the Space Launch System Artemis II, we've talked about, from Launch Complex 39B. Astronauts Reed Weissman, Victor Glover, Christian Koch, along with Canadian Space Agency astronaut Jeremy Hansen, will perform a lunar flyby during a roughly 10-day mission that will see their capsule integrity splash down in the Pacific Ocean. We have a number of Starlink missions. I'm going to give you the profile for the first one, and then we'll just ditto everybody else. Starlink 17-35, this will launch from Vandenberg at SLC-4E. The Falcon 9 rocket will launch a batch of 25 Starlink V2 mini-optimized satellites into low Earth orbit. 8 minutes after launch, the first stage booster will be launching for the first time. We'll land on a drone ship, Of Course I Still Love You, positioned in the Pacific Ocean. On April 2nd, a Falcon 9 Starlink 10-58. This will be from SLC-40. 29 Starlink satellites, also landing this time in the Atlantic Ocean on Just Read the Instructions. Then we have in April, New Glenn Bluebird 7. This will be from Launch Complex 36, Cape Canaveral Space Force Base Station. The New Glenn rocket will launch an AST Space Mobile's Bluebird 7 satellite into low Earth orbit. This is the second satellite in the AST Space Mobile's next generation satellite constellation, and is designed to support space-based cellular broadband for commercial and government customers. April 8th, we have a Falcon 9 launch for NG-24. This is from SLC-40 at Cape Canaveral. This will be a Northrop Grumman Cygnus spacecraft, a cargo vehicle to the International Space Station. This spacecraft was named the SS Stephen R. Nago in honor of the former NASA astronaut who flew 4 Space Shuttle missions and amassed over 723 hours in space. April 9th will be a Vega C SMILE launch from ZLD pad at Europe's spaceport Kourou, French Guiana. The Vega C rocket will launch the SMILE mission, a collaboration between European Space Agency and Chinese Academy of Sciences. The SMILE, which is Solar Wind Magnetosphere Ionosphere Link Explorer, is set to deploy the rocket 57 minutes after liftoff and deploy solar arrays within 10 minutes after that. The planned mission life of 3 years will operate in a highly elliptical Earth orbit. According to ESA, SMILE will use 4 science instruments to study how the Earth responds to solar wind from the sun. Let's see, we have the Boeing Starliner 1 mission coming up, also launched from SLC-41. We do not have a launch time yet. This Atlas V rocket will launch Boeing CST-100 Starliner spacecraft to the International Space Station. Originally planned as the first post-certification flight with 4-person crew, this will instead be an uncrewed cargo flight to test changes to the vehicle made in the aftermath of the crewed flight test that launches in 2024. And then finally, fourth quarter 2026, the Vulcan Centaur Dream Chaser 1. This has been anxiously waiting launch now for almost a year. This will launch from SLC-41 at Cape Canaveral. The United Launch Alliance Vulcan Centaur rocket will launch on its second demonstration flight of Sierra's Dream Chaser cargo vehicle for the International Space Station. Dream Chaser is a lifting body resupply spacecraft that will launch on top of a rocket and land on a runway. This will be Dream Chaser's first flight to space. The Vulcan Centaur rocket will fly in the VC-4L configuration with 4 GEM 63XL solid rocket boosters, a long-length payload fairing, and 2 RL-10 engines on the Centaur upper stage. And this has been delayed since August of 2022, so we're looking forward to that finally happening. And this is KE5ICX, and this is Skynet. Visible satellite passages over the next couple of days. This information comes from heavensabove.com. You can go there, plug in your longitude, latitude. You'll get the same information I read here. All times I'm giving you are local to Dallas. So we have the International Space Station. Let's see, it's March 28th. So 9:09, we missed that one. So the next good one will be March 30th. That'll be in a couple of days. Minus 2.1 magnitude out of the west-northwest at 2112 local time. It'll reach its highest point at 30 degrees at 2115 and fall to the south at 2116. March 31st, really good pass. This one is a minus 3.3 magnitude at 2024 in the northwest. It'll reach its highest point at 60 degrees at 2028, and it will fall to the southeast at 2031. Those are 2 really good passes you really want to get out and see. We have at the Tiangong Space Station, which continues to grow in size and in brightness. We have March 30th, let me read that again. March 30th, minus 2.3 magnitude at 2107. It'll reach its highest point at the west-southwest at 86 degrees, almost overhead at 2111, and it'll fall to the south-southeast at 2111 at 69 degrees. So it will fall into shadow. It won't be a complete pass that will be visible, but it will be a bright pass. April 1st, we'll see another good pass. This one's at minus 1.4 magnitude at 2044 out of the west-southwest. It'll reach its highest point at 51 degrees at 2047. This will be a complete pass and fall to the northeast at 2049. So those are really good passes for the Tiangong. There are few but excellent passes coming up for the next week and a half. Back to you, Billye. This is KE5ICX.
Great, thanks, Tom. This is KF5PDS. All right, I'll go ahead and take a final round of check-ins. Looking over on the club website check-in, there's no new check-ins there. But if there's anyone on frequency that would like to get in for the count before we close the net, please come now with your call sign, name, and where you're transmitting from. Okay, not hearing any. Do we have any checked-in stations that have any remarks, comments, questions, or need any fills? All right, so tonight we had 21 hams participating on the air. Thank you to all who checked in this evening. We hope you'll join us here next week and every Saturday night at 9 p.m. to discuss astronomy, space, and space exploration. On this net, the sky is never the limit. We're always looking for net control stations for this and all the other DARC nets. If you would like to try your hand at this, contact any of the net controls by sending an email to nets@w5fc.org. You can follow topics and discussion about this net and astronomy in general on Facebook and X, as well as our audio and video streams, video archives, and other useful internet resources by going to w5fc.org at the conclusion of this net. So until next Saturday night, this is KF5PDS, Billye. I'll be closing the net at 22:29 local time and returning the repeater to normal amateur use. 73, everybody, and enjoy the evening discovering the universe. And remember, in about 5 minutes will be the Afterglow Movie Net discussing tonight Gore from 1987. 73, everybody.
And Billye is right. We'll be back in 5 minutes. 5 minutes to discuss the movie Gore from 1987. So come on by. You've got enough time to make some microwave popcorn. Come on back. Even if you haven't seen the movie, we will talk about really terrible sword and sandal movies, of which this is one of them. Oh boy. It made over $159,000. That's kind of amazing.
I'm completely operational, and all my circuits are functioning perfectly.
Afterglow Movie Net.
Okay, it's that time. It's the Afterglow Movie Net, and we get to talk about a movie, or something that's trying to pass as a movie. Tonight's extravaganza is Gore, a 1987 science fiction fantasy film. It's loosely based on the 1966 novel Talisman of Gore, the first in the Gore series of Sword and Planet novels. It's written by philosophy professor and author John Frederick Lang, Jr., under his pen name John Norman. There was a sequel to the film, which we thought there wasn't, but there was, Outlaw of Gore, made in 1989. Let me give you the plot. Fortunately, it isn't really long, but then there isn't much of a plot, so this really shouldn't be long. After being snubbed before a weekend getaway by his teaching assistant, socially awkward professor of physics, Carl Kaba accidentally unlocks the magical properties of a ring that transports him to the planet Gore. After his arrival, he encounters a village being attacked by an army of tyrannical, self-appointed priest king Sarm. Sarm's forces are invading neighboring settlements in an effort to retrieve the home stone, that's capital H and capital S, a mystical object that creates pathways between Gore and the distant Earth. Cabot too is abruptly attacked by Sarm's warriors. After inadvertently killing Sarm's own son during the encounter, with a plastic sword, by the way, he was left for dead in the desert. He awakens to find himself being nursed back to health by Talina, a scantily clad barbarian princess of the kingdom of Kuruba. Yeah, you heard it, Kuruba. Cabot learns that Talina's father, the king, very imaginative name, has been to Sarm's lands where they are captured. No surprise there. Cabot leads a group of rebels in an escape effort, whereupon Cabot is able to kill Sarm, rescue Talina and her father, and reacquire the home stone. Carl et al. Return to Kuraba, where after Cabot and Talina admit their love for one another, Cabot accidentally activates the home stone and is returned to Earth. The end. Says production was initially planned for the film in 1987, but theatrical release was canceled. So I don't know. So maybe, but I guess it went direct to video. Gore was widely panned upon its release and subsequently remembered for its poor production value in camp. The film has been the target of criticism for its overt sexual themes, such as they are, and its portrayal of women as slaves to men. Well, that's the whole Gore series, I think. In a 2002 interview with online fanzine The Korean Voice, John Norman recalled that Ballantine Books, holder of the rights to his novels, balked at the idea of publishing movie tie-in books. He said that Ballantine had to be circumvented in order to make the movie. Quote, Ballantine Books refused to do movie tie-ins to either film. They failed even to answer my letters. My attorney finessed his way around Ballantine's rights department and contacted the legal department at Random House. The movies were made by going over the heads of the censors. That's my emphasis. Okay, well, with that, let's see what we can do. The name of the game is this. You can go ahead and check in with your call sign, your name, and did you see tonight's movie, featured movie, Gore from 1987. If you do not have to have seen the film to actually check in. In fact, we'll ask you somewhere down the road if you've not seen it, if there's anything you remember that was similar, or after listening to our fine analysis of the film, would you be interested in seeing it, or why you wouldn't? In any case, you'll be included in the conversation if you feel so inclined. We'll be glad to have you, even if you haven't seen the film. Okay, we're going to go ahead and get started. Please come with your call sign, name, and did you see tonight's film, Gore from 1987.
November Victor 5, Foxtrot, Virginia. Yes, I saw the movie.
I did not want to go first, so it's good that Virginia went. W5BLT Bill. I fell asleep several times on this movie, but yes, I saw it.
Oh man, this is going to be another one of those nights. Okay, let me get the two folks checked in. NV5F, that would be Virginia, and Fort Worth, yes, she saw the film. I got Bill, W5BLT, who didn't want to be first, but he ended up second, and he also has seen the film. Anyone else would like to check in? Come on, it's not that bad.
Kilo Bravo 9, Sir Oscar Kilo, Sean in Fort Worth. Yes, I did see this movie, and yes, it's that bad.
Okay, I picked up KB9SOK, Sean over to Fort Worth. Come on, Dallas. Fort Worth can't show you up. They're brave enough to check in to this, to talk about this fine film. You can do the same. Anyone, please come down. Okay, well, it's enough to at least get us started. We'll see if anybody else would like to check in a little bit. Virginia, you were brave enough to check in first. Your comments, this is your opportunity to talk about the plot to this fine film. NV5F from KE5ICX, you're on.
Okay, well, I'll be honest and say I was hoping to cheat off of your synopsis a little bit, but that's a shorter synopsis than I would even give for the plot of this. Well, let's see. There was this college professor who wore glasses and looked kind of nerdy with his curly hair and his suit, and he was talking to his students at the beginning about parallel dimensions and planets, and they were all looking at him like he's crazy, and then he was trying to impress his teaching assistant, and it was a standard 80s framing thing of, you know, the nerdy, goobery guy, you know, gets kind of steamrolled at the beginning, and then he has, you know, unexpected adventure where at first he's like, you know, fish out of water, and then by the end he's like strapping, you know, barbarian man. Well, maybe not like barbarian man, but he was, you know, he definitely had an arc where he went from kind of nervous and underconfident to, you know, fighting for the woman he loves before the evil king basically tries to force him to torture her, you know, by branding her as his woman or whatever. Anyway, that king guy, he was mean. He was one of the just evil. He liked to torture people. He got a kick out of that, and I think he was torturing the dad of the girl who was the rightful king. getting a kick out of that, and they had to save that guy. Anyway, so I'm getting off subject. Weird standard kind of suspension of disbelief for this guy. Like, he was wearing a funky ring. I think he was explaining what that was at the beginning. It's supposed to be some interdimensional something or other. And I think that he was wearing that. He was driving. He left the school after being kind of, belittled by the boyfriend of the girl he liked, and he was driving along in his weird, really old car in the rain while an 80s new wave song was playing, and then there was thunder and lightning, and it made him crash into a tree, and then all of a sudden he was in Gore, on Planet Gore, which was basically like, I remember these kind of movies from the 80s. There were a lot of these, like, parallel universe, like, barbarian or fantasy planets. I remember another movie when I was a kid. It was around the same era. It was, like, mid-80s. It was called Krull, and it was more of a Lord of the Rings kind of world, but it was a similar thing, I think. There was a lot of that. There was, like, the Never-Ending Story planet, and there was, they did a lot of that, like, parallel to our Earth, sort of, but, different planets. Anyway, this was like a desert meets kind of medieval meets barbarians, but I guess because they're in the desert, they're all wearing almost nothing, which makes fighting probably a really iffy proposition. There's swords everywhere, and there's some armor that just looks cool but doesn't really protect very much. And anyway, this guy, I can't remember his name because he was unrememberable. He's thrust into this adventure. There's a midget. There's some quicksand kind of stuff in the middle of the desert that he gets helps save somebody from or something. And they go through a cave. They find a cave. It's almost like a Lord of the Rings kind of thing, except it's kind of more of a desert cave, and it looks like a cave at Six Flags or Disneyland. And then they come out of the cave, and there's a slave auction, and then they end up in the king's palace, and there's some choreographed slave dancing, and then the evil king being evil and sucking him into making him think he's, kind of getting on the king's side, and then at the last minute, he and his woman, fighting and save the day and save the king from getting thrown into the fiery. When they were going up those Mayan, pyramid-looking stairs, I was like, yeah, I'll bet there's a big diving plank up there, and there's going to be some kind of fire or lava or molten metal or something that they have to throw people into. And but anyway, they saved the father from that, and the bubblegum stone was restored, and then his ring, he touched his ring to that. Oh, and Jack Palance was at the end, and he was supposedly some kind of a priest who was supposed to be in charge of the stone, and you could tell he was shifty, and they were suspecting him, but right at that point, he ended up going back, and of course in standard 80s form, he then completely showed up the guy who made him feel bad and wimpy at the beginning, and then the girl ran after him. So I guess kind of predictable plot. Lots of walking around and fighting, just random things that come along, and sections where it was all about really scantily clad women doing things that those kind of women do in these kind of movies to keep, I guess, to get the younger guys to come into the theater. I don't know. Anyway, standard barbarian, semi-barbarian, kind of medieval, kind of barbarian, kind of desert nomad, swords and and leather clothing that was not very clothes-like, and lots of butt cheeks, and anyway, I'll try to reserve some of my comments for later, but yeah, pretty straightforward plot, but it was very padded with lots of other side adventures, and happily ever after, except bad, scary, creepy guy who you can tell is up to something, is hanging around, waiting for his moment, and definitely room for a sequel. Back to net, NV5F.
Oh, thank you, Virginia, for that detailed description of a not very detailed movie. It's most appreciated because now you can see the vast swaths of nothing really happening in the film by all of the little bits and business that really doesn't add anything to the film whatsoever. You help to detail that in such a marvelous, meticulous way. I appreciate that very much. That helped me to write some notes and to remember right up until the point I fell asleep. Well, actually, I went to bed. However, I did see the movie probably a decade ago, and the last part I saw it just before the ending because it had Jack Palance in it. He didn't show up until like near the end of the film, and that's the part that I saw. I thought he starred in the film. He really didn't. He just kind of showed up. Okay, next up is Bill, W5DLT. Bill was not happy about being number 2 on the list, but that's okay. He is one of the elites that actually checked in. So, Bill, what did you think about the plot to our fine film Gore from 1987?
Well, I will say this, Tom. I'm okay with being number 2 or number 3, number 4. I did not want to be number 1 on this one, so I kept falling asleep on this movie, and then I kept having to rewind it and go back and watch it again. I was lost. So Virginia filled in a lot there. Yeah, I had to go back and look up the plot online. I just had a hard time following it. I did see references to John Carter and Edgar Rice Burroughs, I think it was, that wrote those. People try to compare it to that, but I think his was much better. Yeah, it kind of followed the parallel and reminded me a little bit of it on the plot. You go to this strange planet, don't really know how you get there, and then you get back, and the ring has some magical powers, and a bunch of sword fighting and everything like that. And an evil king who likes to hurt people. So, seen all that before, but it was better done. That's all I've really got. W5BLT, back to you, Tom.
That was very short, but that probably is appropriate for this film. And if you were falling asleep, I have to give you credit that probably is a good defense for this film, is to simply fall asleep, go back and try again, and fall asleep again. But now you realize that all you have to do, since you know the track record for this film, is to go ahead and turn it on, and you'll fall asleep in no time. Now, I don't know if the sequel is as effective for sleep or insomnia issues, but it might be. We'll have to investigate that. I highly recommend we see the sequel, and you're all going no and clutching your ears in disbelief. But you never know. It might be on the list of fine films in the future. The something of Gore, I don't know what it is. The Gore Jr. or Gore 2 or Outlaw Gore, his name is, from 1989. I don't think this movie made any money. Well, it didn't have a budget to begin with, so making $10 is $10 more than it had when it started. Okay, next up is Sean, KB9SOK. Sean, your thoughts on the plot for our fine film.
Yeah, this is KB9SOK. Well, thanks, Virginia, for doing such a detailed plot. You gave it way more credit than what this movie deserved. Yeah, this was, as you said, a very simple, classic 80s, starting out being kind of the wimp to turning into being the hero. So yeah, this definitely, he took his plastic ring, ended up in this other world, and didn't want to be part of it but they talked him into it within like 5 seconds, and then it literally only took him an afternoon to learn how to sword fight and become this really, great warrior, so kind of a Mary Sue kind of character, and then once he was the hero. This movie felt like it was written maybe by somebody, a guy going through puberty and decided he wanted a lot of fur bikini scenes. So therefore, he had to figure out, how do I go from one bikini scene to the next? And that's pretty much what this movie felt like, was just one excuse to the other to go to that. Because that was literally 30-40% of this movie. So yeah, that tells you how thin the plot was. That was pretty much it. Wish I had a lot to say about this. There really isn't. So yeah, when it's all said and done, he goes back to the real world, but yet he doesn't take his new girlfriend with him. Even though he had this romantic connection at the end of the movie, and then he goes back and now he's, liking his old flame again. I don't know. Anyway, yeah, there's not a lot to report on this. I hate to be short on this. I don't know what else to add about this movie, because there wasn't a whole lot of redeeming qualities. I'm shocked that there was a sequel. I mean, they clearly set it up for a sequel, but it's like, wow, I can't believe they made a sequel. At least that other movie that was mentioned, Crawl, at least that one has a cult following. I don't think this one does. This was just a bad Conan-style movie. Anyway, that's all I got. Sorry, Tom. Back to net. KB9SOK.
Well, Sean, don't feel bad. I mean, there wasn't a lot of meat on this film. So, yeah, I fully get it. All right, let me see if I can tease anyone else out from the woodwork. Does anyone else want to join us this evening? We're talking about tonight's movie, Gore, from 1987, loosely based upon the Gore novels by, who is this guy? John Norman, John Frederick Lang Jr. It's 2 movies, and this is the first, Gore, from 1987. Anybody want to join us? Please come now with your call sign name. Did you see the film? Okay, it's your loss, as some of the regular core group have not appeared. They left after Skynet. Ran for the hills. How could they do that? How sad. Okay, let's see. I see Bill and Billye out there. Do either of you want to check in? I'm going to see if I can tease you into the discussion over on Echolink.
Am I still checked into Echolink? This is Inside BB.
Oh, thanks for checking in. Well, what did you think about the movie?
Thanks for telling me about Echolink. I signed off. It was just sitting there wasting my phone battery. The volume was at 0. I did not see the movie, Tom. This is Inside BB. Today, I was just really, really, really busy yesterday and today. Yesterday, middle of the day, I attended a presentation at the Richland campus of Dallas College by a NASA controller who had worked for several years. He's a young guy, but he's from Arlington. He worked for several years as a ISS controller, and then he moved on to the Artemis program. And so he had a really interesting talk. And then, of course, on Friday evening, we had the Space Rendezvous. And then today, I was over in Fort Worth at a Earth Day event with my solar energy group. So I had no time to listen, to watch this movie, which I thought was probably a lot of garbage. So that's my attitude tonight. Sorry. This is Inside BB.
All right, Bill. Well, you just go back, go sit down. Don't participate with the rest of us. That's perfectly fine. We all suffered through this film. You went off on your social activities today and left the rest of us to fend for ourselves for this film. Okay, well, let me go ahead and give my feelings about it. These things we've seen before. They generally follow the same basic plot. We know that Conan the Barbarian came out a couple of years earlier, was very popular, including the sequel, which I think came out before this film did, which meant that there was a bit of a revival. They do have a tendency to show up. They did so in the 60s mostly, then back in the 80s, and every once in a while they try and make a comeback, as was mentioned by, I think it was Bill, with Disney and the Carver stories and all that of Mars. And they always suffer from the same thing, limited plot, because it's always the same stuff. We have the typical call to order, which is we got to put everybody on a desert planet somewhere, stick them in leather, do the cheeky stuff like what Virginia was talking about to try and get the kids in to enjoy the film. And then we have some of the story elements to expect. There's always some sort of thing that's stolen or whatever. We have to go after the evil king or whatever it is. We've got slaves. Of course we do. Why not? And we have to be captured, and then we got to be released, and then we got to save other people, and then we got to do this, and we got to do that. And then we come out, our hero is triumphant, returns to his home, or her home, usually to him, sometimes to her, most of the time to him, and goes back to his mundane life. How about that? No surprise there. What was the film, Army of Darkness, which does kind of parodies all of that and does a much better job. That's actually a fun film if you ever want to see it. If you want to see a sword and sorcery or sword and planet film, that's the one to watch. It's a lot more fun. And instead of a sword, we have chainsaws. Great film. One thing two things, red flags that are always in films like this. The first one is a voiceover narration, along with sometimes description on the screen. This did not have the description, but did have the voiceover. When they're trying to explain the plot to you, it means they're not going to film the plot parts that are important, but they're going to fill you in on all the details that you don't care about anyway, because they don't have the money to actually film them. So you got that. The acting, well, we'll get into the acting in a bit, but let's see. What else was I going to say about it? Visually, the film is very 1980s. We've got the gals with the big hair. All the guys are actually clean shaven, which is a bit weird for a film like this. You wouldn't expect that, but apparently you had to come to work with a shirt and tie and your leather armor, however that works. But in any case, the clean shaven is very important. You know, it used to be like that in baseball. And I guess in the 1950s, the same thing, too, with your films, although occasional beard was required. I don't know. Bit strange, the whole thing. Oh, and by the way, everybody has a hairstylist because this is the 1980s and lots of hair. So the men and women will coiffed hair. Okay, I don't have anything else to say about plot, I guess. Let's see. Let us go to, I guess we'll go through the next round. We'll just talk about characterization. This should be interesting because I'm not sure really the characters had any breakout characters in this, but there are some amusing stories on the backgrounds. At any rate, we'll go ahead and try that. Let's go with the acting and characterization. So, Virginia, you're first on the list. What do you think? You got like 24 characters to talk about if you feel so inclined from KE5 ICX.
Okay, well, you could mostly tell the important characters apart, I guess. All the bikini ladies started to look the same after a while. There were bearded, the evil king was bearded, and then the proper king, the girl's father, he had a beard. There were a few beards in this. It tended to be that the older guys had beards, except for Jack Palance, he didn't have a beard. There was a midget, which I loved, and he was a total, like, platinum blonde. I don't know if that was his real hair color, but he was a pretty buff, muscular little midget with really great hair, and he was rather quite handsome, actually. He was my favorite character. I thought he was fun. He was kind of comic relief. Even he was wearing leather diapers like everybody else. Let's see, the main character was, he was stereotypically looked sort of thin, and he had sort of curly hair, which you kind of don't think of a character or a hero, as having that sort of hair. They tried to make him look a little stereotypical, but then somehow when he got into his native garb, he seemed to be, appropriately muscular and buff. So I guess they had to pick a guy who looked nerdy, could look and act nerdy, but really when he, got into the role, he was actually in pretty good shape and looked pretty okay in a leather get-up with a little bit of armor. Let's see, the female lead was a brunette, which is, maybe a little off the beaten path. And everybody did their job. They did cheesy acting for a cheesy movie that had a lot of fighting and skin and butt cheeks. I remember another movie similar to this one that Mystery Science Theater did. I don't think it was this one, but it was a very similar idea, and they did a whole number in one of the sections on the spaceship. They did a whole number about how great pants were, and because they had just seen too many butt cheeks and too many other things in the course of the film. But anyway, this is very similar to that movie. These kind of movies were pretty popular at the time. I think of Beastmaster, which we watched a couple of years ago, I guess, and some of the other like off-planet Earth analog fantasy worlds. This one looked like it was in Tunisia or somewhere, which, they always seem to shoot everything there whenever they need a desert and rocks in the same show. But yeah, I liked the midget, and every girl in this was super hot and super scantily clad, and the guys were all ripped and muscular, except the evil king. He seemed a little bit pasty and, not very in shape. I don't know why someone didn't take him before he turned evil and took over the village of Karaba or whatever it was called. I also liked this glowy bubblegum wad that was supposed to be the stone. And anyway, the main you know, he was pretty good at starting out kind of you know, nerdy and wimpy, and then kind of changing his posture and you know, being dressed to accentuate his muscularness, and I mean, all the girl, she was kind of a warrior chick, you know. She was pretty tough, and you know, they made a perfect power couple, and seemed like they were going to keep on, you know, being an item, and then somehow his magic ring, like, you know, got together with the bubblegum stone and sent him home, and he didn't have any trouble transitioning straight to another girl, you know, the girl who was there back at home. So I'm not sure if he had any kind of conflict about that. It didn't seem like he did, because he punched that guy out, and the girl wanted him, I guess. She was chasing him after that. But so yeah, everybody was okay. A lot of it ran together. A lot of the minor characters all kind of ran together, and all the ladies in bikinis, except for the main lady, they all kind of ran too. And all the guys in leather underwear and armor and with their cheesy fake swords. But the main people, they kind of stood out at least enough for you to, you know, kind of follow what the story was. And the midget was my favorite. Back to net, NV5F.
All right, thank you, Virginia. You came through again. Appreciate your detailed descriptions of several of the standout characters or stand-up characters. I'm not sure which. Okay, next up is Bill, W5DLT. Bill, was the midget your favorite character, or was it someone else from KE5ITX?
Well, this is hilarious. There's kind of an extreme here. You have a midget, but then you have this like really tall guy, and his name escapes me. I think he was like 6'2" or 3", a very big guy. But when he was born, he was 17 pounds. I was watching the creature feature, and they were talking about these characters on YouTube, and the comment was that this guy better send his mom flowers every Mother's Day. And there was one of the characters in real life who was pretty rough and tumble, and he loved to drink, and actually died of a heart attack in a drinking contest with some younger guys. And they were listing off everything the guys had, and I think I'd be done probably at the first bottle. But anyway, it was interesting, the background on some of these characters. And I'm sorry I can't remember the names because I didn't recognize any of the actors. But apparently, they had some well-known people in it. But, you know, in the 80s when I watched movies, and even today, unless it's a scripted video, I don't see the credits at the end. I think it's an interesting thing. My daughter reads the Rings of Power to me on the Amazon, and all the executive directors and assistants of the executive director and the co-assistant to the executive assistant to the assistant director. I don't know if this movie had that many people involved, but I guess everybody did their parts. I just had a hard time staying away. I don't know that they had really much to work with here, so you just do the best you can. I think we've all been there in certain workplaces where you just work with what you got and try to get out and go home. But I don't know what these guys thought of this movie.
Anyway, back to you, Tom. W5BLT.
All right, thank you, Bill. You know, one of the things that I enjoy doing at the end of films, there's two things I enjoy about movies at the end, and that is I do enjoy the credits. I actually read through the credits. I'm always curious to find out who is in it. Sometimes there's some minor characters, you go, I recognize that actor, or more often it's locations where they shot movies and who they thanked for whatever reason. A lot of times, some films, if they're comedies or sometimes the wink wink nod nod universe films where they intersect with other films that are out there, you'll find little tidbits in there that will you know, they'll throw in there, like in one of the, I think in one of the Naked Gun movies or something, they had a line in the credits, and it says "to serve man," and then next to it, which would be the name of the actor, it says "it's a cookbook" with an exclamation point. But you'll find that sort of thing in there. The second thing I like about it is, of course, it's extended score, and I'm a big fan of motion picture scores most of the time. So you get virtually the entire score as a medley at the end. So that's always interesting. You get to hear the music unfettered by any of the dialogue or anything. So I enjoy that as well. Plus, you're always the last one in the theater, and the guy comes around with his broom and trying to sweep out the stuff from underneath your seat for the next group coming in, and you're the only one in there. And they got the lights up, and they're trying to push you out, and you just stay there to the bitter end. As soon as the credits for the producer of the movie, you know, whoever the distributor is, then finally the lights come up and you leave. So that's what I enjoy about that sort of thing. Okay, next up is Sean, KB9SOK. Sean, what did you think about the acting, characterization in our fine film, Gore, from 1987, from KE5ICX?
Yeah, this is KB9SOK. So what we just learned, Thompson's the best part of this movie was the credits. I think that pretty much sums it up. Yeah, these characters, I can't really blame the actors in this one because there wasn't a lot to work with. Yeah, it was pretty cheesy. You know, and all these movies do seem to kind of have the same kind of characters in them. You know, we got our hero, reluctant hero at the beginning, becomes the hero. I think he might have been, in my opinion, the worst actor in this film. He just seemed very stiff, and even at the end, he just wasn't, you know, didn't really feel like his heart was into it. Seems like some of the other characters were putting out a little more effort. And then, of course, we had the wise man to teach him how to fight. Then we had your warrior. Then we had the other warrior that had a chip on his shoulder. He didn't like this guy, you know. He was reluctant to accept him. And then, of course, we had the love interest. She happened to be a warrior, too. So, yeah, I mean, that's pretty much this. Of course, you got the bad guy, typical over the top, just complete crazy guy. I guess he played it okay. Once again, cheesy dialogue, so what do you expect? So once again, I really don't blame the actors in this. The only actor I recognized was Jack. Obviously, didn't show up to the end. And he kind of played the character he always plays, pretty much. So, yeah, nothing surprising there. So, yeah, not a whole lot real on characterization. Just kind of a cheesy movie, cheesy dialogue. I'd be more curious if anybody in this group, totally off topic, actually went and saw Hail Mary. I haven't saw it yet, but I'm thinking about it. Sounds like it's getting good reviews. Anyway, back to that. KB9, that's okay.
All right, thank you, Sean, and thank you for your comments. And yes, at least a couple of us saw Hail Mary. I know that Virginia did, and I saw it night before last and really enjoyed it. In the good old days when, before COVID, we would go as a group and go see the movie as a matinee on a Saturday or Sunday, usually a Sunday. and then talk about the movie the following Saturday evening. I kind of miss those days. Those were a lot of fun where you'd show up as a group, have a little bite to eat either before or after the film, and then talk about the film. Usually the bite we go eat after the film, and then meet at a central location, both for the movie and then for for food, and then we talk about the film and then reiterate a lot of our comments the following Saturday. A lot of fun. Miss those days. Oh well. Miss some of the people too. Okay, I think certainly we can talk about that film too a little bit. So let's see. Final round. This can be anything, and if you want to talk about Hail Mary, that's perfectly fine by me. I've got a lot to say about it as well. So if you run out of ideas about this film, we can go just segue right into Hail Mary. So we'll start with, well, let me ask if anybody else is out there who would like to check in. If you want to talk about Hail Mary, that'd be fine too. Please come with your call, your name, and did you see our film tonight, or just checking in?
Lurking inside BB, I'm going to see Hail Mary in IMAX this coming Tuesday afternoon at the Cinemax on Webb Chapel Road. By the way, most of the days that it's still showing in IMAX, the showing at 3 o'clock in the morning is nearly full. Okay? That's how many people are trying to see Hail Mary in IMAX inside BB.
November Tango 5, Tango Mike Mobile. I did see about half of Gore.
Now they're coming out of the woodwork. Okay, thank you, Bill. That's interesting to know. Yeah, the theater is full. This is a very popular movie, which, by the way, means there's going to be a lot of imitative science fiction films headed our way once again. We're going to have an opportunity, a whole plethora, I bet you, of films in the next year and a half or so. Okay, I've got Tony has checked in. He's mobile. Tony, try and drive safely while you talk about the movie Gore. Don't get too excited because we don't want you in an accident or, driving recklessly as you describe this film in your inimitable way. Go ahead with your comments on Gore.
Bob, this is Tony. Were you calling on me? You got drowned out by some road noise.
Yeah, with the police sirens in the background, I'd recommend you turn the radio up and roll up the windows. But yes, I asked you any comments you want to make on having seen most of the movie or some of the movie.
Well, thank you, Tom. I'm sure most people have covered most of what I would say, so I'll keep it to just two things. I did have some fun with it. It was awful, but, the laughable stage combat and the goofy costumes with the goofy helmets, at least I got a smile out of what I did see. The movie also made me think of an old sketch that I believe was on Saturday Night Live, and they were about the musician George Michael, if any of you remember him, and they were having their fictitious George Michael talk to the director of his music videos and constantly demanding more shots of my butt. Hey, why is there a shot of something in this video that isn't my butt? I want more shots of my butt. This movie was clearly either directed or filmed by someone from that school of filmmaking. NT5TM.
Thank you, Tony. And believe it or not, yes, I remember that skit. I was still watching Saturday Night Live way back then. Okay, I think that was in the 80s, mid-80s. Okay, very good. Thank you both for that information. We'll go to the top of the list. Final words. Anything you want, including any comments you want to make about Hail Mary. Virginia, NV5F, you're first.
Okay, well, I tried to come up with some kind of 2001 reference for this movie, and I just couldn't. I sure tried. The music, I don't remember it. Don't have much to say about anything that I haven't already said. I have seen Project Hail Mary 3 times. I don't want to talk too much about it because Sean was asking if any of us had seen it because I think he was wondering if he should go see it. So I definitely do not want to say too much. But I read the book over the summer and had already listened. Well, I listened to The Martian, which I loved, and so I kind of rolled right into listening to this one as an audiobook, and I liked the audiobook so much that I read the book and saw the trailers for the movie, and I could tell right away that it was something that I particularly would enjoy, and I can usually, when it's that good of a movie for me, when it's that much of a movie that I'm going to like, I can just tell. And so I've been waiting for a long time and was very happy to get to see it a couple weeks ago, and I thought it was wonderful, and it is the best thing I've seen in a long, 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 long time. It, to me, is, for me, it has all of my favorite things, kind of all very well woven together into one story, as far as my sensibility about science fiction and just movies that have heart, like Short Circuit, those kind of movies. And it just had a little bit of everything I really like all in one movie, and I really enjoyed it immensely and would highly recommend it. I did see it on IMAX in Dallas on Thursday, and for a Thursday at noon, it was not all the way full, but it was pretty. Everything from the front rows back was pretty full. And I was very impressed. I hadn't seen anything at that IMAX since like 2001, and that theater opened in the year 2000. So I went to that IMAX on the 10th anniversary of Beauty and the Beast and saw Beauty and the Beast there at Christmas time when I was here visiting, because I didn't live here at the time. And that was the last time I had been there, and I had forgotten how incredible it is to see a movie that is 50 feet high and 70 feet wide and not that far away from you. It's pretty remarkable. Well worth it, and what was really fun is that one of the guys who worked there did a little kind of a talk about film, because so many people don't even know how film works anymore, and it made me feel old, but I love film, so it was great to hear him talk about how how film works. He even had a big old piece of 70 millimeter IMAX film there that he was showing everybody, and he kind of just talked about how projectors work and how the 70 millimeter IMAX film is different because it goes through the projector sideways, so it's not 5-perf. The image is on it the opposite or perpendicular to what it would normally be, so the frame is actually 70 millimeters tall, which means it's very large. It's quite a bit wider than that. So, and after the movie, when we came out, they were standing outside of the doors of the theater giving each person a sample piece of IMAX film from a different movie, but it was cut into sections of like 4 frames, and they gave us each a piece of 70 millimeter IMAX film, and I thought that was pretty neato. So I had a great time at that the other day, and the movie looked great. I am actually going to see it again tomorrow at the normal regular theater IMAX, not film, at the Parks in Arlington tomorrow. So that will be time number 4 for me. I love it. I recommend it. I'm very enthusiastic about it. Glad to hear someone has seen it too. Back to Net, NV5F.
All right, thank you, Virginia. Thanks for telling us about that. I just make a side comment here about 70 millimeter film. When I used to go to movies all the time, I'd go out, and much younger, in my 20s, or even late teens, I always sought out the films that I wanted to see, usually the blockbusters that were in 70 millimeter. A lot of times they were in multi-track sound. 6-track magnetic sound was very popular in the late 70s, early 80s. I remember too that my parents would take me to this music hall in downtown Detroit, and they had Cinerama. That is performing theater, and it has been converted back to performing theater, but they did Cinerama in that theater, and we'd always sit up in the the middle balcony or mezzanine level actually, and watch the film there. And if you ever went to that theater, you can see how big the screen was because they actually chunked out the marble railing, the marble facade that was in there to make room for the screen because the screen was so large. And I saw a lot of films there in a large format like that. It was just really, really great. Cinerama was a lot of fun. IMAX is its worthy and very good successor. All right, next up is Bill. Bill, your final comments on anything you want. Please go ahead. The floor is yours from KE5 ICX.
Well, I don't have anything on this movie, but I will say that, as always, the Afterglow Movie Net is more interesting and more educational than the majority of stuff that Hollywood produces, and that's why I show up every week. Back to you, Tom, W5BLT.
All right, very good. Thank you, Bill. And yeah, one of the things, we're all film aficionados, and we're willing to hold our nose and watch some pretty bad stuff. But there's an object lesson in there. I've always mentioned this, and I still find it interesting. Even the bad films have teachable moments in them. How did it go off the rails? Why did it go off the rails? What may have happened? What did happen? Speculation. I do the tongue-in-cheek as far as the story, what the story is, but there's a little element of truth to it. You know that in some cases the movies have gone off the deep end for some reason, and the crazy, implausible plot line or backstory that I always give for the description has an element of truth. There probably is something that happened, copious amounts of alcohol, money that got laundered, actors that mysteriously appeared and disappeared, strange ideas that came about after hallucinogens. That stuff actually does happen. Maybe not as crazily as I say, but or suggest or intimate, but I think it's not too far off base either. Okay, let's see. Next up, Sean, KB9SOK. Sean, your final thoughts. This movie, or if you've seen Operation Hail Mary. I hope that's the right name. I know what it's called. I just can't recall right now. Hey, a long day, too. Go ahead, Sean from KE5ICX.
Yeah, this is KB9SOK. Yeah, for this movie, the effects were pretty low. I know it was a low budget. But yeah, the costumes weren't particularly great. The plastic swords were very laughable. That was probably the funniest part of the whole thing. And yeah, the main object of the movie, as Virginia has nicknamed it, the bubblegum stone, which is pretty much what it looked like, was a cheap piece of plastic. You think that they would put some effort into that, that was the center of the movie. But yeah, it was pretty bad. I remember watching it last night thinking, wow, that is a horrible main piece. But anyway, yeah, no, thanks for the information on Hail Mary. No, I haven't seen it yet. I used to go to the movies a lot, but since COVID, I actually haven't been to a movie since COVID. And to be honest, there's really been nothing that's kind of motivated me. But this one seems really good, and I appreciate the information about it because it sounds like it's definitely worth fighting the lines and going to maybe it sounds like the IMAX is the way to go. So yeah, I may have to look into some times for that. But as always, yes, the conversation is way more enjoyable than the movies. So as always, looking forward to the next one. Back to net, KB9SOK.
All right, thank you, Sean. Yeah, I don't think there's anything better than seeing something with an audience, whether it be a live performance or a motion picture where everybody's together and we're all synchronized in watching the film. There's a lot of fun to that. There's a lot of synergy to it if it's a good film, and nothing beats a big, huge screen to watch it on. Even with our large screen televisions, nothing just does justice as well as seeing a film on a big screen. And we did Dr. Strangelove as a group and went to see it, and there are little details because that is a Stanley Kubrick film. There are little details in it that you don't see on a small screen, and having seen it first on the small screen and then finally seeing it on the big screen, little subtle things such as Dr. Strangelove and the stuff all over his jacket, which you can't see really in the television version of it. It turns out it's his cigarette ashes, because every time he'd go Mein Fuhrer, it was his cigarette hand, and the ashes would go everywhere. So it was obvious that this happened to him a lot. His arm would go crazy, and then the ashes would go flying. So it wasn't just that one moment. It was very often that it happened. So there's the subtle humor. There are other things inside that film that are the same way. The big screen will do that for you. Okay, we've got Tony, NT5TM. He may be mobile. I don't know if he's still there. Tony, you got any comments you want to make before we say goodnight?
Thank you, Tom. Nothing to add about this movie, but yeah, I am pretty curious about Project Hail Mary. I had a lot of difficulty when reading the book because I kind of foresaw a key plot element ahead of time. But now that there won't be any suspense over that, I should probably reread it and see if I enjoy it more. And I am pretty curious to see about the movie, see it in the theater. I think the biggest thing that's been keeping me out of theaters is, one, I hate color casts, and two, I have very little interest in superhero movies. So there hasn't been a lot of compelling things that make me say, oh yeah, I want to go see that. I'd pay money for that. But this could be it. Maybe it will be. NT5TM.
All right, very good. Yeah, I think this one's obviously an audience draw. It's getting people into movies, and I'm with you. I am not a superhero movie fan at all. The last superhero movie that I really enjoyed was Superman from, 1978? That was fun, and even the ones after that of the same genre, same people, weren't as good, although 2 was pretty good. But I just can't get into those films because it's so fantasy driven. It's like in battles and all of that. It doesn't matter to me. I don't care because none of this could happen. There's no jeopardy in anything that occurs. I mean, even the Superman movie with Christopher Reeves, while it's character driven, there is a plot device that undoes it, and now we know that Superman can fix anything by just going back in time. So what's the point? And even in Superman 2, he does the same thing. He goes back in time and fixes another problem. So there's never any consequences. Nobody dies. Nobody stays dead. You know, it just no. I agree. Okay, my final comments on the film itself. I did not see the ending, although I did see the ending probably 20 years ago. And it's still just as unmemorable as it was then. I don't remember much about it except Jack Palance doing Jack Palance as Jack Palance. So there's always that. Music-wise, the music wasn't too bad. It was sort of out of place. It was a bit bombastic and didn't quite fit the film, although it was melodic, and it seemed to work okay. So I was okay with that. The fake sword play and the fact that they missed the guy, they did the old trick like we had in school. I think Tony mentioned it too, hold my sword. When he gets stabbed, it's basically, it was really bad. It was like something out of a high school production or something. They just didn't, they made no attempt to be professional about anything, just did the scenes and that was it. Oh, I was going to mention one thing about one of the actors, and I forgot to on the last round. I think it's Oliver Reed, Robert Oliver Reed. He goes by Oliver Reed, who's Sarm. This guy looks familiar to me, and I had to go look him up. And while he's not been in a lot of A-list movies, there is one that he was in, and it was Gladiator. Surprise, surprise. He played the Gladiator trainer, the guy who ran the thing that whoever starred in the thing where he was brought up and learned and was trained. It's that guy. And I think Oliver Reed had a little bit of a drinking problem. No, he had a massive drinking problem. And I think he was half-bombed in this movie, which is what he looked like a few times. He had kind of that dull, vacant look in the eyes. I don't think that was acting. I think he had the dull, vacant look in the eyes because he'd been drinking all morning. So there's that. But at any rate, mildly entertaining, not very good, and just the way it is. So anyway, that's it from here. Next week's movie is going to be, I found something a little more recent, although really not that recent. This is a 12-year-old movie, but was made into a TV series a few years back. It's called Snowpiercer from 2014, and surprisingly, it got some decent reviews. So I'm not sure what to expect. It's one of those weird films of science fiction with a train that goes around the world type of thing, but what the heck? We'll give it a shot. It's about 2 hours long, a little over 2 hours, so be prepared for that. I'll send this out sometime tomorrow. Snowpiercer from 2014. Anyone else have any comments or anything they want to do before it closes?
BB. It's a double, N5BB.
NV5FI was the double.
All right, well, maybe it was just an inadvert. Go ahead, Bill.
Okay. Virginia and I both have comments. Whatever happened to my idea of looking some of the UFO series, the predecessor of Space 1999. I went back and looked at the one that I sent you the link to, and it looked like it was reasonably, quality stuff in 5BB.
Oh, thank you for reminding me, Bill. Yeah, I actually liked the series UFO, and I watched it back in the 60s, or maybe it was 1970. I watched it, the series on TV when it first appeared on, I think, ABC as a summer replacement series, and I liked it quite a bit. I even have a copy of the show here at home. My only issue is that it is stitched together episodes, and I find that sometimes difficult to watch. I was going to go and see which episodes they were and see if it might be worthwhile. I don't mind at all. If people want to do it, I'll put it on the list and we'll do it next time. But I did like the series quite a bit. I enjoyed it. I thought it was a lot of fun. Let's see. Virginia, I think you had something. Go ahead.
Yeah, I had, I don't know if Tony's still around, but I did have some parting shots about Project Hail Mary. No color casting, no green screens, all practical sets. There's none of that murky, low contrast stuff. It's real cinematography. They did actually use an out-to-film process on it where they actually printed all the digital footage out to film, and then they reprocessed it. I don't know how that all worked, but pretty crazy detailed stuff. And a major non-human character in the film is also, for the most part, practical and very, very interesting. So I think that that's one of the things that makes it appealing, is that it feels like a real movie for a change. A very great amount of care taken from everything to the cinematography to the music. So anyway, and I checked the IMAX screenings in Dallas on the big 70 millimeter, and I think the last day is April the 1st. That would be Wednesday. And there are seats left, but those screenings look like they're getting full. So, also, there are IMAX formats at other theaters, like the parks in Arlington will have the IMAX kind of format and aspect ratio and big screen, but it's not anything like seeing it in 70 millimeters. So, anyway, but I recommend the biggest screen you can find. Back to net in V5F.
All right, thank you, Virginia. Thanks for those comments. Yeah, it makes me want to go see it on a big screen again. Maybe that's starting to play in my head again. Big screen stuff was always fun, like I mentioned earlier. Okay, very good. We'll do Snowpiercer. By the way, another film that I collected and decided that this is a TV pilot, and it is done by the Andersons, who we were talking about with UFO and Space 1999, and it's a TV pilot. It's only 45 minutes long. The Day After Tomorrow into Infinity from 1975. It was actually produced by some of the actors who were in Space 1999 between seasons, between 1974 or 75 and 76, I think it was. They were able to shoehorn in this little-known TV pilot, so we'll get that in there sometime. But we'll do a Snowpiercer. I'm going to do the review of UFO. I'm a big fan, and if that will work, we'll go ahead and do it. If it's too clunky, we might do one of the episodes. I don't know. I throw that into caution simply because I've seen Battlestar Galactica is a common show that was made into, like, episodes were made into, like, mini movies, and I found those to be plotting and difficult to watch, so I was a little worried about the UFO thing that Bill mentioned. But it may be edited just fine, and there's none of that. I just need to sit down and watch a little bit of it to see how it plays out. Although I've forced you guys into watching some pretty terrible stuff through the years, so maybe I'm being too cautious over something like that. But if you haven't seen the series, the UFO, and you want to, this might be a good introduction. It's certainly a very interesting show. My favorite is the last episode, to be honest with you, and if you watch it, it's very weird, but very entertaining at the same time. My favorite. All right, with that, I'm going to say 7-3 to everybody. Thank you for your comments this evening. We almost made it to an hour and a half. Not bad, 11:50, almost to the bewitching hour. So even though we had a limited check-ins, we still managed to have pretty good conversations. So I want to thank you all, and we'll do this again next week. Anybody out there who's listening and hasn't checked in and would like to, or you'd like to get information on the movies that we're watching ahead of time, just send an email to me at my call sign. That's Kilo Echo 5 India Charlie X-Ray KE5ICX @yahoo.com, and ask to be put on the list. You can also go to Afterglow Movie Game, I think, or Afterglow Movie, 2 words, on Facebook, and you'll find us there and the movie information posted as well. That's it for me. We'll see you all next week. This is KE5ICX Now Clear.